A $20 football boot versus a $260 boot. Which one do you think is better? While you may think that the premium Nike Vapor 15 is the clear winner, you'd be surprised with how these boots actually compare with each other. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the differences between these two models. Starting off with the Vapor 15. Now, being that this is Nike's flagship football boot, it's not too surprising that they've brought all the bells and whistles to the forefront. They've got their new Vaporposit Plus upper, which is really thin, yet also feels pretty durable to the touch. It's a woven synthetic material that you can find wrapped all around the exterior of the boot. And then running around the collar and on top of the midfoot, you're gonna have Nike's traditional fly knit material, which is really stretchy, soft, and keeps your foot locked down. And that fly knit material is pretty seamlessly connected with the rest of the boot. And similar to what you would see on other top-end models, Nike have also added a really soft cushion heel liner just to give you a little bit more comfort and reduce the likelihood of blisters. And aesthetically, as far as the upper is concerned, I have to admit, I think Nike did a great job with the Vapor 15, and it's a really clean looking boot. And then flipping over to the underside of the boot, you're gonna have a fairly rigid sole plate tooling with these really sharp, aggressive TriStar and bladed studs. These are gonna be great for getting traction on firm ground natural grass, and if you do happen to play on artificial grass, Nike also offers the Vapor 15 with an AG stud configuration. And then towards the base of this sole plate, Nike has also implemented their Air Zoom technology, which is essentially just a small compressed pocket of air underneath the boot. Now, Nike have been including Air Zoom technology in all of their running shoes for several years now, so it's not really a huge technological advancement, but this is the first time we've seen it featured in a pair of football boots. And while the concept of Air Zoom is pretty cool, with it advertising to give you a slight energy return with every step, the actual effects it's going to give you on the pitch is probably going to be pretty negligible. So let's talk about how that design compares to the $20 football boot that I found from Amazon. Now, to find this boot, I literally searched on Amazon and filtered prices from low to high, and this was the first model that came up, so I figured I could just give it a try. And I've got to admit, I was definitely expecting the worst when I first unboxed these. But the design of these boots is really not that bad. Now, the upper is also going to be a synthetic material that feels a little bit more rigid and stiff compared to what you find on the Vapor 15, but it also doesn't feel overly bulky. In fact, I think the design of these boots overall feels pretty streamlined. And then instead of the Nike Vapor 15, which features this one-piece upper design with that fly knit running through the center, the Amazon boots actually have an open traditional lacing system here that's going to provide you a lot more flexibility with the boots on feet. So essentially what that means is with this simpler lacing system, you're going to be able to make it a little bit tighter towards the front of the boots, or maybe a little bit tighter through the midfoot or ankle based on your specific foot shape. Whereas with the one-piece upper you get on the Vapor 15, you kind of need to hope for a really nice fit out of the box, because even as they break in, the shape of the boots isn't really going to change that much. Now, on the interior of the $20 Amazon boots, you actually get a nice feeling synthetic leather material that even has an intricate grain structure to the point where I actually thought this was leather when I first got the boots out of the box. And the heel area, while it's not quite as padded as what you get on the Nikes, it's definitely soft enough to the point where you're not going to get any blisters. Now, these boots are both in the same size, but I have to admit the sole plate on the Amazon boots is just about a centimeter wider towards the toe box compared to the Vapor 15s. And then as far as the stud configuration goes on the Amazon boots, it is pretty much a direct ripoff of the Nike AG sole plate. But that being said, the Nike AG sole plate is pretty good, so I can't be that mad that this is a ripoff because I like what they're ripping off. And then I wouldn't say that the sole plate on the Amazon boots is floppy at all, but it does have a little bit more give to it compared to the more rigid tooling that you get on the Nikes. But what's the difference in how these boots actually feel on feet? Now, it's no surprise that the Vapor 15s are gonna hug your feet really, really closely, and that's definitely what Nike is going for. And I've got no problem with that more performance-oriented fit, because you definitely don't wanna have a lot of extra space within the football boot. But that being said, for me personally, the premium Vapor 15 Elite that I have here is just a little bit too narrow towards the front of the toe box. And that's a shame, because other than that, these boots actually have so much going for them in terms of the fit and feel. That premium fly knit feels great around the ankle, and they just feel so comfortable around the heel and the midfoot. And if you do typically wear Nike football boots and they work for you, I definitely think you're gonna get a decent fit out of the Vapor 15s. But if you're used to leather football boots or almost anything that has a more traditional lacing system, you might find the fit of the Vapors to just be a little bit too claustrophobic. Then in terms of the fit of the Amazon boots, well, the first thing that I noticed when I got these on feet was that they do run pretty long. I got these in a size 10 US, but they definitely feel a little bit closer to an 11. So if you do happen to find yourself shopping around for this model in particular, I would definitely recommend sizing down. So although I had maybe a half center more space towards the front of my foot than I would want to, these boots were surprisingly comfortable on feet. I didn't get any pressure points towards the heel or the toe box, and I definitely got a little bit more width out of the front of these boots compared to the Nikes. I think the only complaint I would have about the fit of the more affordable Amazon boots is that I wish the upper was just a little bit more flexible, because as you're walking or running, they can tend to bunch up a little bit towards the bottom of that lacing system. But what differences did I feel when I was actually playing in both of these boots? Well, as I mentioned, the upper is going to be a lot thinner on the Vapor 15s, and that sensation comes across when you're playing in these boots. The touch on the ball does feel closer, and it also just feels more clinical and precise. I also like that the upper is not too sticky. It has more of a matte coating to it, so you don't feel like the ball gets stuck under your feet. But after about an hour or so of wearing these boots, the narrow toe box and the more rigid sole plate eventually got the best of me. Now, it's true, if you play in these boots for several weeks or several months, over time, your feet will adapt to the shape of these boots. I think the only question you have to ask yourself at that point is, do you want your feet to adjust to the shape of these boots? And that's where the Amazon boots actually really impressed me again, because these boots just worked a little bit better for me out of the box. Now, the touch on the ball wasn't quite as close as the Vapors, but other than that, they performed really well. The lockdown was great, they were really comfortable, and you also get a similar matte finish that you get from the upper that's on the Vapor 15. The only negative thing I really noticed was the same thing I mentioned before, and that was just a little bit of bunching of the material towards the front of the foot. And the only thing I would change if I could go back and order again is just getting these in a size 9, because I think they would fit even better. So how would I compare the value of these two boots, and are either of them actually worth it for the money? Well, these two boots represent pretty much the far extremes of price points, because for $260, you can virtually get almost any football boot on the market, and for $20, this is pretty much the only football boot you can get on the market. And with that $260 price point on the Vapor 15s, it did leave me questioning, what am I actually paying for? Because while these boots are thoughtfully constructed and use pretty good materials, you can find boots for over $100 less that hit that same criteria. And I think a big chunk of those $260 are going to be going towards that Nike logo you see on the boots, as well as more redundant features like the air zoom technology in the sole plate, which I don't really think makes a big impact into the overall feel of the boots. And I think the high price point of these boots also comes into question when you look at the first takedown of this model, the Vapor 15 Pro, because that boot is going to include many of the same features, give you a near identical fit, and it comes in at around half the price at $140. Now, in terms of the value of the Amazon boots, at $20, I really don't understand how this company even makes money. But what I can tell you is that the quality of these boots absolutely can rival some of the best third-tier takedown models that usually sell for around $75 to $80. I'm talking about boots like the Tiempo Legend 10 Academy from Nike or the Predator League from Adidas. So seeing that this boot can comfortably rival models that are around 3 to 4 times the price, I would definitely say it's a great value. But as I mentioned, these two boots are at the extremes in terms of price points, and I actually think that you can find better value than both of these boots if you look towards the middle, especially when we talk about boots that range between $100 and $150, because I think that that's where you're going to find the most value. More specifically, I'm talking about boots like the Tiempo Legend 10 Pro from Nike, which is one of my favorite takedown boots they sell. That one retails for around $130, and there's also the Nike Premier 3, which is maybe one of my favorite Nike boots of all time, that has a really soft kangaroo leather upper. It's more comfortable than both of these boots in my opinion, and it's only going to retail for about $110. Then if you want another great budget option that's even more comfortable, you can look at the New Balance 442 V2 Pro. The 442 weighs almost exactly the same as the Vapor 15, but it has a more comfortable fit, and it's one of the best boots for slightly wider footed players that's on the entire market. Not to mention, you can pick up a pair around $140 or less, and it's almost always on sale. So what are my final thoughts when comparing these two boots? Well, what doing this comparison really emphasized to me is that brands like Nike, Adidas, and Puma, the brands that are occupying the top of the market share, they don't really have any special sauce or special feature set that puts their boots above the rest. At the end of the day, making a good football boot is just about getting the basics right. And that means offering you a comfortable fit, good connection with the ball, and a sole plate that's going to give you traction with the ground. And these $20 no-name boots from Amazon actually did that surprisingly well. So at the end of the day, don't judge a book by its cover and don't feel like you have to spend a lot of money on a boot to get a good product. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.